Welcome back to the True North Podcast. We've got a pretty special episode this week where we're going to dive into what we talked about at the last Frontier. The Frontier is an event that we do every month on the second Monday of every month. And what we wanted to do is start providing this content for you guys that maybe aren't able to make it every month so that you don't miss out on what we taught about and what we're doing, the cool stories that happened. And for those of you that maybe aren't ever able to make it because maybe Monday nights are just hard or you live in Texas or Tulsa or somewhere where you just can't make it, this will give you an opportunity to see what we're talking about and what direction we're going. But before we dive into all of that content, I did want to let you guys know we are just about a month away from the True North Gala. We still have plenty of opportunities for you guys to sign up, whether you just want to come as an individual or you want to buy a table and invite all your friends that you want to introduce to True North or that are in your men's group, or maybe people that would give to True North. We'd love all of that. And it's a really special event that's happening August 2nd at the Oklahoma City Convention Center. I'm sure you've seen a ton of posts about it. We're going to keep posting, keep pushing, and we'd love to invite you guys to join us in just building that event so that it can go towards rescuing the hearts of men, just like everything else that we do. And so thank you for your consideration for that. I've got with me Christopher LaRue, who has been helping lead the Frontier ever since it began. It was actually his heart that kind of brought it out of True North and saying, hey, we really need to do this. And then I've got Brad Montgomery with me, who's been on the podcast before, and you actually led last month's Frontier. And so, Christopher, would you hop in and tell us, what does a Frontier mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Man, I'm really humbled to be here, and this is so cool and fun. I think it was about a year and a half ago that you and I, we took a trip together to kind of look at camps. And we were driving. Trey was there and Ryan. And man, we spent a lot of windshield time. And in that, a conversation that we had was just like, what are we doing for guys to bridge the gap?
Yeah.
Like, we've got this experience down where we are able to create environments where men actually hear the voice of their father. And different levels of that. But what are we doing to follow up from that? And how are we getting guys deeper? And how are we building community? And so from that, we really just kind of rolled that into a discipleship mindset that, like, we want to not only further the family of True North and these men coming together, but to dive deep, and to, at the heart of it, like what does this narrow path look like? How do we die to self? How do we get guys in front of Jesus more often? And for that encounter, and that's what the Frontier was born out of. Just building that community. And so, to me, when I think of Frontier, I think of like the edge of the wilderness, where there's wildness, there may be people groups that are unknown. There may be like battles that we have to fight, and sometimes we're on our own, sometimes we're in a community. And so, like, the frontiersmen of old, that's what I think about. I think about just that it's a hard, enduring life that's unknown and uncharted. And when I look back over the Frontier over the last year that we've done this, I don't think we've had two the same. And there's so many times that we've walked through like planning and praying, and then when we get to the Frontier and Jesus is like, nope, left turn. And it's just like, okay, well, I guess this is uncharted, and we roll with it, and it becomes so beautiful. And the stories that are coming out of the Frontier are just really life-changing. So it's an honor to get to be a part of it, and I'm excited to see what God has as we continue this and roll into this podcast to not only reiterate what we talk about, but to just go even deeper.
I think the other thing too, I think what's drawing a lot of guys in, certainly myself, I think for others too, guys are just hungry for stuff that's real, like authentic.
Absolutely.
And I like your description of a Frontier, because like even in that, idealistic term of what a frontier is, it's very real. There's not much there that's, fake.
No.
You can't really fake it. And it's a super cool environment where guys can come in and just shed a pose and be like, this is where I'm at in life. And judgment-free zone. We're all going through it.
Yeah.
We all want to go through it more with Jesus and find a better way to do it.
Well, the frontier was hard too.
Right.
Like, it was a fight.
It's a fight. Yeah.
Just to survive on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
it was a battle.
Yeah.
And so here we
That's
are
good.
on
Yeah.
the edge of the frontier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so one of the cool things that we're getting to do with the Frontier is, if you've been around True North for any amount of time, you can quickly recognize that there are some pretty special men that are a part of what's going on here. And we felt like the need to allow men the space to kind of step into leadership and to share what God is doing in their heart. And so that's why, I don't know if you've heard or not, but we have started having a different kind of teacher or director for each individual Frontier, where these guys are stepping in and sharing a message that's been impactful for them, and they get to kind of run it how they want to run it. And so this past month in June was Brad's opportunity to do that. Next month it'll be Lee Cantrell. We'll have him on, and we'll do a podcast just like this with Lee as well. But Brad, first tell me, what was the message that God stirred on your heart for this Frontier?
Part of my job is I do a lot of driving. I get some windshield time, and that lends itself to audibles and podcasts when I'm feeling, trying to be productive. To be honest, sometimes you just blare music and just sing at the top of your lungs.
Alanis Morissette?
Yeah, well, Alanis Morissette. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. It's safer than trying to watch your Instagram reels while you're heading down the H.E. Bailey Turnpike. It's not safe. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning that. It was really a podcast that we shared at the Frontier, and it was about having an all-in life mentality. And the content was from Wild at Heart and John Eldredge. It resonated with me. Because one, just maybe it was just the season at the beginning of the year. Everybody's thinking about new starts. What's my current trajectory? I think it hit me at a point in time where the central question of that content is, what does that all-in life look like, and why should we be pursuing that? And some tough questions that came out from that for me that resonated, and I wanted to share it with other guys, and it seemed to resonate with our Frontier guys that were there this last month. Is a lot of times in our lives we can put Jesus and something else. So I want Jesus, yes, I want the way of Jesus, but I also want my comfort, or Jesus and my security, or Jesus and the next trip coming up, or Jesus and my hobby, or whatever it is, or food or drink. Just imagine Jesus plus in this blank space, fill in the blank. It's different for everybody, but as guys, there's some central things that we can kind of put in there. So we talked about that. That hit pretty hard with me and just resonated with me at the beginning of the year, and I wanted to share it. I think we're at a time in our culture and a time of our life where, as Jesus followers, we need to revisit that question of what's getting in the way of me and my pursuit of Jesus.
Yeah.
We talk about it being in a discipleship environment. Am I following the way of Jesus? And what I discovered in that was there's some stuff that I could put in that blank space.
Oh yeah.
And that was the central discussion. I think it's worth revisiting. I think it's something that we probably constantly had to come back to. You had pointed out that you listened to some other teaching, that it's seasonal too, right? It's different seasons of our life. That blank will be something else. And I've definitely found that true in my life. The stuff that was the plus, the blank space 10 or 15 years ago is certainly different than it is now.
Yeah.
But it's that relentless pursuit of finding it, drawing an awareness to it, and trying trying to get away from it, trying to just put Jesus.
What comes to mind when you say that is that how loud just the world is around us. Like we're just being bombarded with signal, if you will, whether it's visual or audible or even like the draw of our heart and our sinful tendencies, right?
Yep.
Which is what makes base camp, the Ascent, Summit so beautiful. Yep. Because it's a chance to silence, right? And to hear the voice of our Father, which is kind of core to our mission.
Yep.
But how do we train ourselves?
How do you get that? You know, we even talked about, you know, when we're hosting base camps even a decade ago, we talked about this a lot. Like, hey, this experience of turning off your phone and really tuning in to your Creator, the dirty secret of True North is it's available to us all the time.
Right.
You don't even have to go to base camp to get it right. That's the goal, right? Yeah. You need to hear from your Father every single day, and it's available to us. The question is, how do we do that? That's the challenge, right?
Well,
you've got so much distraction, right?
Yeah, that's a danger too of the base camp model. That there's the tremendous beauty, but the danger is the man that looks at it and says, oh man, I'm not doing good. I need to get to a base camp so I can hear from God.
Right.
And it's like, whoa,
right.
Dude, no, like, dude,
you don't have to do
if
that.
If we're doing our job well, like we're teaching you that's available in your daily. Now, I do understand, like Christopher, like when you get to it's kind of unmatched in how you get to shut off all the noise and go into a distraction-free environment where nothing is asked of you. Right. Because it's tough to replicate that at home at any point. Right. Even to sketch out an hour of the day, like you're having to wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning to make sure that it's undistracted and that nothing will interfere with that.
So true.
But
and to your point, I think a lot of it starts at we were talking about this, starting at the level of awareness. You have to be aware of something that you're fitting into your walk with Jesus that shouldn't be there.
G.I. Joe, right? Knowing is half the battle.
No, ooh, I like that. Yeah, the G.I. Joe mentality.
Yeah,
you heard it here. That's really good. If you don't have an awareness for it, then you can't really do anything about it. So I think step one is awareness. I think taking time to either journal those things out or getting that solitude, whether it's at a base camp. Just what is my Jesus and you know, and we can kind of dive into some of that content a little bit more. But the second part of that is kind of what we're talking about. Why is it there, and what am I going to do about it? And that, I think, starts at the level of the things we're talking about. Base camp is beautiful because it incorporates a spiritual discipline of solitude.
Right.
Yeah. Right. That's what and these spiritual disciplines, it's not a list of rules that you have to do. Jesus doesn't need us to read more of his word or get into quiet by ourselves. It's really for us. It's a gift he gives us.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason he gives us those disciplines is that's the best place to be, because that's where I can increase my awareness, and then I can pray against it, and then I can actually take action to do something about it, to hew out the stuff in my life that shouldn't be there.
Right. But if we're honest, like the silence is uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And so to sit in the quiet brings a pressure to it as well, because there's all these things vying for us. And so for me, the telltale is like when I sit in the quiet, like what am I drawn to? Do I want to pick up my phone?
Oh,
do I want to tap the social media button? Do I want to, like where am I drawn to?
Yep.
And so that tells me like what's vying for my attention the most, especially at that time.
And story time here. I think this resonated mostly with me at the beginning of the year because I find myself in a profession that is a frenetic pace. And finding that time or quieting my soul, even just on a daily basis, is it feels completely overwhelming and impossible. If I look at the big scope of things, it's not really impossible. That's the point, right? It's intentionality.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get sucked up in that frenetic pace and just
how do you take 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes when you already feel behind?
Exactly.
When you wake up in the day and you're like, okay, gosh, I'm already in the rat race. I've got to do this, get to this place, meet with this person. how do you just stop and just shelf all that?
Yeah.
That's the battle right there.
Yeah. It is.
Well, I think the treasure in the field that we want to reveal to people is that, yes, we talk about Jesus and all of these other things, and some of those things do require us giving them up. But actually, the treasure in the field is making it Jesus with all of these things. Not all of these things. Some of them do just need to be cut out of your life completely. But it's not about just eliminating everything in your life and just sitting there in a blank space in a quiet room for the rest of your life, right? Like God created sports.
Sure.
God created good food. God created these things that our heart desire. And so how do we integrate those things with Jesus,
right,
or Jesus into those things?
Yeah.
Because what happens in my life is I have my time with Jesus and my walk with Jesus, but the and stuff that you're talking about is where I need to be working on. And the and for me is the and YouTube, right?
Yes.
Like, and picking up my phone and checking out on with YouTube, or and sports, or and food, those are some places in my life that Jesus is not integrated into fully. It's been like a wave back and forth at times. Sometimes I've had to eliminate sports altogether just to get my heart right and my mind right. But we're not sitting here saying you eliminate it for all time. How do we healthily, or in a healthy way, integrate Jesus into that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the pieces that we talked about at the Frontier. And he didn't talk about it very long, but he brought up this concept of Jesus as your operational Lord. Mm-hmm. So how do you operationalize Jesus? And I love that phrase, because it's like, no, in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
In going to the sports event, YouTube is amoral, right? There's probably some bad stuff on there, but there's bad. Okay, it can be it's a toxic sludge pool. Okay, but it can also be helpful.
But thanks subscribe to our channel.
Please subscribe
on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great point.
Get your filters in
so
place.
This is real life, right? And trying to keep it real, in the vein of True North. But how do you make Jesus the operational Lord of your life? Like, how do you incorporate that into your dailies?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm honest, oftentimes I'll hit 2, 3, even 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, "Where's Jesus?"
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I left him back there, and I kind of
8 a.m.
Come on, Jesus.
If I'm honest, I'm like, I want him to catch up with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Oof.
No, Jesus, come to me. This is my life. You've given this to me, and I'm running. Where are you at?
Yep.
Why aren't you keeping up?
Yeah.
And he's like beckoning me to come back to rest.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's get back
pause,
here.
The John Eldridge, pause app or whatever. But it's that call into life.
Yeah.
Because in that rat race, there's turmoil in me. And I find myself angry and lashing out and using vocabulary that I don't want to use.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment that the dash light, the warning light's coming on, and I realize that, okay, I need to stop. I need to shelf this stuff, and I need to sit at the feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
Even just for a moment.
Yeah.
And then resume my conversation, my walk with him, to say, Jesus, it's not this stuff and you coming up to me. Like, it's you first. Let's do this together.
Yeah. So would you say, like, on your best days, like when you're hitting, a home run in your walk with Jesus, is that the difference? Like, you start your day out, you intentionally build in that solitude time, and then you're less apt to be like, hey, Jesus, catch up with me? Is that?
Yeah, I find that what I fill my mind with is what comes out.
Okay.
And so when I'm filling my mind with worship, when I'm filling my mind with scripture, when I'm spending time in prayer, and so that's like the heart of who I am, right? Then I tend to wake up with worship on my tongue and in my heart.
Yeah.
And that draws me into that, hey, Jesus, thank you. And in the attitude of gratitude, I guess, that I'm alive and I have this day ahead of me, and that just draws me into that rest.
Yep.
So as I go into battle, as I, like I meet people or I deal with jobs or situations that are tumultuous, really.
Yeah.
Right. There's a peace because
Yeah.
I'm walking with him.
That's good.
And I tend to love others well. Then the opposite of that is when, like, the 2, 3, 4 o'clock, when I'm not walking with him, I'm not loving others well.
Yeah.
And I'm really a jerk.
Yeah. So
And-
I don't want, like, our listeners to miss out on the wisdom of that statement, right? It's easy to gloss by. What he's talking about is not just checking off a box of reading 5 minutes
Right. It's
in
not
your
just a
Bible.
daily
It's not
scripture,
it's
yeah.
not just that. You're talking about spending time in a living, breathing relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely. It's
Music, and
conversational.
yes, it's conversational. Of course we're reading scripture. Of course we're doing that. But the motivation is, I've got to meet with Jesus.
Right.
Right? I've got to have that.
Right, and the second piece of that is what are you filling your life with? Like, what are you consuming? What kind of
Yeah.
media, whether it's social media or television or even music, what are you putting in?
What are you consuming?
Because we're
Yeah.
like computers, it's data in, data out. And so if I'm going to put garbage in my head,
Yeah.
how do I expect to get peace out? How do I expect to get Jesus out? The garbage is going to come out. And I'm living proof that garbage comes out. But when Jesus is there, and when I fill my mind and my heart, and I consume him, when I'm consuming Jesus, and that's why he refers to himself as the bread of life and
Yeah.
the living water,
Yep.
then life comes out.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, love comes out.
And how is that? Because that takes real small decisions throughout the day, right? To make sure you're intentional about bringing the good in, because there's so many moments throughout our day where we do make small decisions of what we're turning towards. I know for me, there's a lot of drives home where I'm tired, and I kind of want to just choose either something that will just distract my mind on the drive home, or but then I feel that still small voice of, like, just the invitation to
where you could
to
spend
listen
time
to
with
something.
me.
Yeah, either have a quiet drive home or have some worship on, or content that is going to feed my soul.
Yeah.
And I think that there's just a bunch of intentional decisions throughout the day we have to make to bring that in, because the morning time is crucial, right? Like, it's almost like the putting on your shoes for a run, right?
Yeah.
But, like, just putting on your shoes for the day doesn't mean anything. You
It's a
still
good
have to
analogy.
get out and go
Still
run.
gotta go do it. Yeah.
And, like, I think it's a Dallas Willard quote, actually. He says, I think God is far more concerned with the other 23 hours and 45 minutes of your day than just your 15 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
Of devotional in the morning. Now,
good.
the devotional in the morning, it's important too. Like, it is the Kickstarter. Like, you do need to put the shoes on.
Yeah.
But figuring out what that 23 hours looks like and integrating him in
Integration
is so important.
Yep.
Yeah, those little decisions throughout the day are, like, pivotal. As I was driving in this morning, I was kind of thinking about, just looking forward to the podcast and what we're going to talk about. And one thing that came to mind is those are little altars, right? And so, like, Jesus offers me life. Like, it's a gift that he gives me. But so often throughout the day, like, I'm sacrificing that on the altar of Facebook, or I'm on the altar of productivity, or on the altar of, whatever I want to consume at that comfort, idleness, whatever. And so I take his gift and I put it on the altar and I sacrifice it for what? And so that's kind of what he was telling me coming in. Like, what altars am I using to sacrifice his life, his peace, his goodness that he gives to me on?
Yeah. You know what a lot of our guys need is they need to pick up the phone and call a friend in these times too. I think of all the times that someone's called me just to see how I'm doing, and we get to just talk, and, like, it's like Jesus just gets so integrated into those conversations if you're calling the right guys, and if you're plugged into a True North community or your local church's community, and you have those men that are pursuing God the way that you're pursuing God, like, you need to be calling these guys. I mean,
That's
weekly.
a great point.
Build that community. I think a lot of men just choose isolation.
Yeah.
And just choose to do that wake up, get all the stuff done, go hard till 5 o'clock, and then be with family, which the family part's crucial. But what could you do to fill up with some friendships? Yeah. Just some phone calls, even 10 minutes of how are you doing?
Point. I love community, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I'm honest, most of the time I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know how to build that community. I don't know how to reach out to those guys, or I'm just tired. Mm-hmm. Like I've got to make a space to reach out, and in that, like I feel isolated.
Yeah.
And so, like I'm like, why is nobody calling me? And that's honest.
Yeah.
But when I feel like that, that's my cue. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, it's time to reach out.
Yeah.
It's time to call you, or another friend or a brother, or like, who have I not talked to in a while?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I asked Jesus, who am I supposed to call right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you want me to talk to? Who do you want me to give life to, or who do you want to give me life?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's shared. And it's just really beautiful when it happens.
Yeah, that's good stuff. The other thing, going back and kind of reminded as you guys are talking through this, he said a phrase in the podcast that I think is really beautiful. He said, in this day and age in our culture, the safest place we can possibly be is in this all-in life with Jesus.
Yeah,
right.
It's the safest, the best. This is what we're all, as men, really wanting at the end of the day. This is what, we keep these frenetic paces. We just go. We get distracted. But what we're really searching for is the life, the adventure, the beauty, all the, the risk and all the things that we find in Jesus. And I love that phrase. Getting there's tough. Getting into that space.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But it's available.
Well, and I think a lot of people, the scripture of his yoke is easy.
Yeah.
And burden is light. Like, really? Like, where's that exactly?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But the adventure to getting there is...
Yeah.
It takes some stripping. Like, that's probably because of the Jesus and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's so much and that the yoke isn't light.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all the other stuff that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
When we try to carry this Jesus box and we try to carry all of the other world with it, right? When we let the world go and we just carry Jesus, well, we find that Jesus is really carrying us. And then when we get into that turmoil, like there's rest and there's peace, and that's the easy part. That's the light part. It's the little decisions along the way that are hard. Yeah. Because what is that? That's dying inside, right? Jesus said, take up your cross. And so I'm choosing something contrary to what I want, because my flesh inside me wants comfort.
Yeah.
It wants pleasure.
Yeah.
But Jesus says, no, what you need is me. Yeah. So I have to kill that in order to get him. And that's what makes it hard.
Killing things in our lives is not fun, typically.
No, death is not.
It's easy to talk about and hard to do.
Yeah. Right.
It's hard to do.
Well, if we really, we're in America. We're in this super blessed culture in a super blessed region. We have all the comfort that we want.
Yeah.
And if we compare that to places in the world or history.
Yeah. Just historically.
Choosing Jesus really was choosing death.
Yeah.
And so the all in life is it's either this or that.
Right.
And when they made the choice, it was done.
Yeah.
For us, Jesus told us this. It's hard for a rich man.
Yeah.
Because we have to make the choice to sell our riches, to get rid of all the blessing so that we have him. Now, does that mean we live an impoverished lifestyle? No. But it's that choice.
Yeah.
In every moment along the way.
Yep. So in my mind, I break it down to, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things that I should be doing differently, or what are the things that I can incorporate as a part of this message? And I think number 1 for me, and then we kind of went over this, is what is my Jesus and? What is that blank for you? If you're listening to this, what else are you adding into it? I think that, again, bringing it to your level of awareness so you can deal with it, pray about it. 2, we've talked about starting a day or being intentional about how the trajectory of your day starts. And then 3, what are the choices or where are the places where I need to integrate Jesus. And we probably all can pinpoint, again, a level of awareness of, it's on my drive home, or it's when I'm going to this confrontational, meeting with a client, or things are just falling apart at work, and things aren't going well. How and where do we bring Jesus into that? So that's kind of why I think about it. What's my and? How am I starting my day? And how am I integrating Jesus kind of in the details? I think that's helpful, at least for guys, to be like, hey, here's some practical things.
Right.
For me, the uber practical thing for me is it's a resource that Wild at Heart puts out. That Pause app is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to check it out. It's literally it's a bit of a guided prayer.
Yeah.
And you can choose 1 or 3 or 5, or you get crazy and go 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And literally on my drive into work, I will stick that thing on and I will play that thing through. It's just guided prayer. I'm telling you, it changes the trajectory of my day.
Yep.
I'm not perfect, and the day can still fall apart.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it's amazing. It just brings you back and focuses, where's Jesus today?
Well, one thing that's helped me too is that, what is language? Language is a definition that we've tied to a sound, right? We make the sound and it means this. And so for me, I've defined that is Lord come.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so there's moments in my day where I'm like, I want to scream, right? Or there's no utterance that would come out of me that is positive.
Yeah.
And I just,
So when your kids or Melanie, they hear you go, Dad's getting some Jesus in.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I don't know that I've shared that with them. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
But it's just
we just outed you here on the
the day. I'm just the breath of life. For me, that means the Spirit of God come into me.
Yeah.
And fill me. And sometimes I'll do it 2 or 3 times.
It's good.
And just sit.
Yeah.
And we've been walking this road for a bit, right? We've been on this for a while. And what I want to be honest about is we're not perfect.
Right.
There's more days than I'd like to admit that I hit 4:00
Yeah.
and Jesus is back there.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage you that as you do this, you're going to fail. It's just plain and simple. We're human. Romans 7 talks about the man I am and the man I want to be are not the thing.
Yep.
They're not the same. And so just keep doing it. Just keep practicing it.
Right.
And then you'll get to a point where you think man, I've got this all together. And then you realize no, I'm really stupid.
Got a long way to go.
Stupid,
it looks
right?
Got a long
and
way
Jesus
to go.
will come into that, and then then you'll grow again, and it's just part of that journey. The joy is in the journey, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and there is no finish line.
No, there's not.
There's no point where you just cross this line and it's all good to go from there. You can just stick it in neutral and go. God doesn't want that for you. You go all in, and you truly go all in, and then He's going to bring new things to pull more out that you didn't even know you had. So you thought you were all in, right?
Yeah.
So what I'd love to do to bring some even more practicality to this, for our listeners that might be okay, but I still don't have a clue what would it look like for me personally to be all in. Could you guys kind of maybe go through your day, maybe a work day and a weekend day, and just go through the day, and what would the fruits of Brad Montgomery being all in, and because the fruits of you being all in and the fruits of Christopher being all in should be 2 different things. I think God created us that way, and then me as well. Go through real quick, what would a all in Brad Montgomery's day look like, the healthy version? Because you're not going to be floating above the ground. At least I don't think. But
no. Usually,
what's the perfect day that you've never had?
Exactly? What's the ideal look like?
Yeah.
Well, how come you never have that?
Yeah.
Okay, so like a home run for me, if that's kind of what sports language, I guess. My day starts out with solitude, right? I wake up, I don't reach for the reels or the news headlines, right? It starts with finding Jesus. Jesus, I give everything and everyone to you. Consecrate this day, just spending that time. Yes, I will read scripture, but finding Jesus more importantly, and in his word, in his scripture, just getting that starts the trajectory of the day. prayer on the way to work. What that does is, I like the language that Christopher used in, having confrontational meetings with clients, because I can find myself in those either with coworkers or customers. What it does is it puts me in a mentality. I liked your image of what I fed myself is what's going to come out. On a good day, I'll be able to, let's just see, this past week, I've had great conversations with coworkers that are just having rough times in life. Life is happening to them, and life is happening like with a vengeance. And just talking to them about, man, I have been there. Like, I've absolutely been there. Here's what Jesus has done in my life, or here's what God's done in my life, and I believe everything happens for a reason. I'm just able to leave just breadcrumbs, just like, look at what Jesus has done. Look at this. The fruit of that is deepening relationships that matter, right? And telling the good things that God has done. That's the most recent example that I can think of started the day well, found Jesus, had an opportunity to talk more about what Jesus was doing, and what Jesus could do for them. I love that.
Yeah.
It brings me to life.
Yeah.
And then, there's the days I don't do that, and those conversations don't go well.
Yeah.
Either, because there's stress injected into it,
Right.
and you start your day off with a reel. You're gonna reap that. The whole thing of reaping what you sow.
Oh gosh.
It's kind of true. That's good wisdom. That's practical wisdom for life. So let's sow some good seeds in there. I don't know, what's it look like for you, Chris?
Man, so first off, I hate you because that question is so convicting. Even now, like, I'm sitting here thinking about, honestly, discipline is so hard for me. My personality does not lend itself well to like a regimented style.
That's so wild with it. I mean, you're a Marine, and like, you think that would have been beaten into you by now.
Yeah, I'm tough. I'm tough, but I'm not. Like, discipline is something that I have to discipline myself to do.
Okay.
And so my MO is really, I just want to take life as it comes and deal with it. And that is not a recipe for happiness or peace, or like, things get like out of whack. Like, there's a lot of storms that come from that. And so when, like, my perfect day would be like getting up early, spending time with God. Like, I'm talking 5:30 in the morning. So by 6 o'clock, like, I've had coffee, I've had my time with the Lord. And I kind of look at that like as like I'm having coffee with Christ. Like, I love getting breakfast with friends, right?
Yeah.
Going and early morning, hanging out, talking, praying together, like whatever that looks like. Just like, that's fun for me.
Yeah.
And so when I make the mental shift, like, I'm doing this with Jesus now, and I see him as my friend, my big brother, my Savior, and my God, like, then it beckons me into that time where I'm having coffee with Christ. I'm not always like reading the Word. Like, sometimes I just sit with him and I'm quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes I spend the time praying. Sometimes I spend the time like trying to memorize, or like just consuming like scripture, just reading the story that he's given us. And so like that time's not always the same. And then I go and work out. Like, I spend time in the gym, and like then that carries over, and my thoughts are on like what I've read and what Jesus is doing. And then that carries over into my day. And I find that when I have that discipline in the morning, like, my discipline carries through the day, and I'm able to like be task oriented, organized, and actually accomplish things. When I don't do that, I find that I'm disorganized, and that like life seems loud and confusing,
and the chaos
and disorder
is
chaotic.
loud.
Right. And then the other part of that is like, when I'm not engaged at work, like engaging with my family. Like, how am I discipling my kids? How am I discipling my wife? How am I loving her? How am I loving them? Am I hearing them? Because I don't. I don't. Like they're there and that noise comes in and I recognize it, but am I really hearing? Mm-hmm. Am I really learning their life? Am I studying them? And honestly, the perfect day would be in that order, mm-hmm. right? And gosh, like the question highlights the fact that I don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's a deficit there.
I'm there with you. Yep.
And I get it right occasionally.
Yeah.
But the normal is no.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm wrecked inside right now because I want to make it so.
Yeah. Yep. I feel that. I'm there with you.
I think the beautiful thing of this is like the fruits of what you guys are talking about isn't necessarily casting out demons along the path that you're walking every day and just these big miracles and all. Like you're kind of talking about patience, gentleness, love, and like I think that that's important for people listening to understand. Like this isn't some huge idea that's all in life. Like
right.
Like it is available. Like, and it's not just set aside for a few, and it's not just solely up to your determination or gifting or all the things. Like the all in life is available.
Yeah.
And the more that you pursue it, the more fruit and the more patience and the more gentleness and all of that will come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard an analogy, there was a gentleman talking to a youth group, so a bunch of kids, and he's trying to tie like this idea to them and let them like just really grasp that. And he's like, life is hard. Like honestly, this planet is hard on humans.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just acknowledge that. And so if we're a vessel, like we're going to get bumped. Mm-hmm. And when we get bumped, whatever's inside is going to spill out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So it's that, what are you consuming? So whatever I'm putting inside my vessel or my cup or whatever,
that's good.
When I get bumped, like I'm going to spill.
Mm-hmm.
And like when that spills, that's telling what's in our heart.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so it's that in the morning, let's take the vessel and dump it out and then let Jesus fill it.
Yep. It's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
How about you, James? What's it
Yeah,
like?
it's very similar to yours. I've actually really started enjoying walks in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really doing anything other than literally just trying to acknowledge that Jesus is walking beside me the whole way.
Yeah.
Like I'm walking on
Finding
the left
Jesus.
side.
Yeah.
I'm walking on the left side of the small sidewalk to make room. Like if I find myself walking in the middle of the sidewalk, I literally am like, oh wait. Like I just keep finding myself doing that. Of course, I'm judging other people's yards and all that stuff too.
Of course, yeah.
Which
Got some weeds over there, right, Mr.
That's
Smith?
Jesus and
mow your yard.
Jesus and weeding.
Out loud. I'm trying to walk here.
Jesus and landscaping.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with my yard right now. So, but
you're up here.
no, I've started doing that the past few weeks just because I was getting to a point of like, I need to get moving. Like my time just sitting and trying to listen has been so distracting, and it hasn't worked. And I've heard that walking works for other people, so I've started that, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to tell you that I've had some big breakthrough. Actually, honestly, guys, this morning I woke up anxious, wide awake, 5:30, anxious, and I'm like just clenching my fist in my bed almost. Mm-hmm. And I roll out of bed, and I'm like, I'm okay. A walk would be good for me, and I'm walking. And I have a lot on my plate, and I'm like, Jesus, I need to give this to you. I know I'm supposed to give this to you. Like, please come and take it. And I'm like, I need to hear your voice. Mm-hmm. I just need to. And I walk around this car, and there's a sign in this person's yard that says, choose faith over fear. And I'm like, and I'm not a big sign like my neighbor Joseph Lashbrook that's been on the podcast. He's huge on numbers and signs.
It's all these signs
stuff.
But in this case, it was
for
literally
me, I'm always
a sign.
no, that stuff was there before I ever thought about it. But I don't know. Like I just needed to hear that, and so that's kind of some of the fruit of the walk. So the walks have been really good for me. I really like getting home, and from the walk, that's like a good precursor to me sitting for about 10 minutes and my mind being clear. So that Jesus can speak into it. I'm early on in that phase, but I truly believe that that's a walk that he has for me. Something I need to add more to it is more scripture, not in a a religious way, but in a to encounter him more,
to consume
more.
Yeah.
And then from that step, it's waking the kids up and being patient and loving, not urgent and pushing, but like just walking with their flow.
Yeah.
And then sending them off well to wherever they're going for the day. Loving my wife well, being there for her before she goes off to work, or if I'm leaving before her, you know, like just making her feel loved and seen before I leave. That's integrating Jesus into that portion. And then I'm really good about consuming content on my drives. I really love podcasts and all that. So, and Jesus speaks so much to me through that. I really love that. And then arriving at work for the day, I would say just gratitude is a huge part of it throughout the day. Like just these moments where I get to choose, like, man, God, like, thank you for what I'm getting to do, and the people I get to meet with, and honestly integrating people more into my schedule is really important, because I really love being with people, and I really experience Jesus through other people throughout the day. But then a good day for me, if I'm integrating Jesus into my day, is a couple of stepping outside of my comfort zone a couple of times in the day. If I could point to 2 times where I maybe reached out to someone that I normally wouldn't, or just did something that I normally wouldn't do, I would say that's a good integrating Jesus into my day. Arriving at home, you know, taking time to not just rush and pick the kids up, but actually, like, once again, like, make sure my soul is good for them so that I'm available to them. I usually get them, and I have about an hour with my kids before my wife gets home. And so just getting in the floor and playing with them, like, because I need Jesus big time to have the energy to get in the floor and do all that stuff. And so that's definitely integrating him in. And then my wife gets home and she wants to talk about the day. She wants to debrief. She wants to be seen. And so I am not skilled at that area. And so I have
takes intentionality and energy.
Integrating Jesus, like, as she's talking, like, Jesus, give me the eyes to hear her, or the ears to hear her, and the eyes to see her in this moment, and to respond in a way that she knows I'm hearing her heart.
And that's the small choice, right?
Right.
Because comfort's easier.
Right. Yeah.
Retreat is easier.
Right. And so, and then just finishing the night well with my family, just being present. And then I really love, I'm always drawn to this idea. There's this prayer of, like, kind of recapping the day with Jesus, of where did I feel you most, and where did I feel you least. And you kind of just journal through that. And I'd love, a good day for me would be getting consistent at doing that, and kind of ending the night like that.
I love that.
And so
I can't remember what you were talking about journaling. I think I shared at a True North event one time, hey guys, it's so important to journal.
Haven't journaled since.
That's so terrible.
What did I do with my pen?
I struggle with it.
Position heal thyself.
Right?
Golly. You brought up, I love that. So you see both with Christopher, with James, the thread of, you start your day finding Jesus, right? You're incorporating, you're operationalizing Jesus into your day, so it breaks down those compartments that we involuntarily set up, and you integrate Jesus. You find Jesus constantly. Like, it's not just a one-time thing, right? It's where's Jesus in this? Where's Jesus? Where's Jesus?
You know what I can say about that schedule that I just laid out? I do about 40% of that, 50% of that every single day.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I hit 100%.
Right.
I don't know the last time I did.
Yeah.
And that's me getting to all in. Would be like, that is attainable for me, but yet it's so rare.
Yeah.
But it's also not completely absent.
Yep.
Like, I'm never hitting 0% either.
Right.
Which is important.
Which is incredibly important, because back to what you were saying of, man, I feel myself like falling flat on your face. And you said earlier, like, hey, it's a journey, right? We're getting better at this. It's taking the next step. Part of the all in life with Jesus is, hey, I just realized that I'm at 3:30 and I left Jesus back at about 7:30.
Yeah.
Right? Part of the all in life is stopping in that moment and being like, let's go find him.
And that's the beauty too.
Or just being like, Jesus, find me. I don't even know where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Like, and this is, if I'm being honest, this is where I'm at. I can hit that frenetic pace because in our culture you can become addicted to it. Right? Just and you find yourself there. I think it's a good and restorative thing to hit time out, take some breaths, right? Pause, find Jesus. And it literally looks like, Jesus, where are you right now? Yeah. And he would probably say, you left me back at 7:30, back on your walk or something.
Right.
Like,
still at the coffee shop.
Yeah, I'm back here.
Or last night. We went to bed good last night.
But that brings you back to Jesus.
Right.
And that's a good thing. That's what we want, right? It's a process. So don't, be graceful to yourself.
Right.
Give grace to yourself.
In the grace, right?
Yeah.
Practically, this is a lot the same way that manifests my life as working out or eating healthy or any good discipline that I have.
Yeah.
Right. I can do good for a while and then not.
And then not. Yeah.
Right. So when you find yourself in the not, like just find the one thing.
Yeah.
Like make the one decision and then make the next decision and then make the next decision until you come back into that discipline and that walk with Christ.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's life in the discipline.
Yep.
And Jesus wants to meet you there.
Yep.
And so, like, even if you don't feel it, do it.
Yeah.
Because the feeling will come.
Yep.
And love is not about feeling. It's about commitment. It's about that one decision after another decision. And that's what Jesus calls us into.
G.K. Chesterton quote, right?
Yeah.
The Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting.
Right.
It's been found difficult and left untried.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's hard. Let's just acknowledge it's hard.
Yeah.
Dying to yourself is hard.
Right. And this world is hard on
it's
humans.
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
It is.
It's beautiful.
It is. There's
It's worth
life. There's life.
Yep. It's where we want to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Probably that sums it up perfectly. Like it's hard, but it's so worth it. And that's what we want this to be about. We want you men to be encouraged that there is more to this life and it is available. And so thank you guys for coming in and doing this today. I'm looking forward. Christopher, you'll be a part of these going every month.
Yeah.
We'll be recapping with our leader for each month. So
it'll be awesome.
Yeah. And Christopher, we'll get you on here soon too, and we'll go through your story for the True North podcast.
Okay.
So that people will
buckle up,
even know a little bit more about who you are. Because, dude, you've had about 37 different careers, not just jobs. Like this dude, not just jobs.
I'm feeling judgment right now.
No. It's a phenomenal story.
He starts whole careers and then just moves on to something else.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But look forward to that. We'll do that soon, so that everybody can kind of get to know your story.
We will learn about Chris's learning agility. That's one thing I've always admired about Chris. His learning agility is phenomenal.
Yeah. So
blessing and a curse.
Yeah. Yep. But thank you guys for joining us. And for everybody else, we've got the Frontier coming up July 8th, which is the second Monday in July. It's at the Glory Barn, same place we always do it.
Let's go.
Like I said, Lee Cantrell is going to be doing the next one. So
so preview to that. I was just talking to Lee this morning on the phone.
Yeah.
And just talking about community.
Yeah.
Right. So I called him. He called me. I called him. And we played phone tag several times. But like in vulnerability, he's like, I need help, and I want to retreat, but I'm going to ask for prayer because he's preparing for this, right? So if you guys pray for Lee as he gets ready. And the idea behind the next frontier is that often we come to Jesus for comfort, and what we really need is healing. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to dive into that.
Yikes.
You and I had the exact same. Sounds like the Frontier. Dun, dun, dun. We need some theme music for the Frontier. I'll work on that. Don't worry, guys. I'm all over it.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time.